And we are back with the St. Sebastian Players Our Town Christmas Special. And again, this is just us having a little bit of fun, so don't take anything too darn seriously. Especially this next sketch, which I just don't get.
Daley was retiring to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The Tribune had reported it, the Sun-Times, CBS 2, NBC 5, ABC 7, all had stated the same. Even FOX was giddy at the prospect of a new Republican mayor in the city of Chicago, so they too signed on to the story. And FOX was good upon anything they chose to put their fair and balanced hand to. Mind, I don't mean to say that I know how FOX claims to be fair and balanced of my own knowledge. I might have been inclined myself to regard them as unabashedly biased, but the wisdom of our ancestors is in the simile, and my unhallowed hand shall not disturb it, or, as they continuously report, the country's done for. You will therefore permit me to repeat emphatically that Daley was retiring. Daley knew he was retiring? Oh, of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Rahm and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Rahm was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole assign, his sole residuary legatee, his sole friend, and almost sole mourner. And even Rahm was not so dreadfully cut up by the sad event, but that he was an excellent man of business on the very day of the announcement, and solemnized it with an undoubted bargain. The mention of Daley's passing brings me back to the point I started from. There is no doubt that Daley was retiring. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful can come of the story I am going to relate. If we were not perfectly convinced that Hamlet's father died before the play began, there would be nothing more remarkable in his taking a stroll at night in an easterly wind upon his own ramparts than there would be in any other middle-aged gentleman rashly turning out after dark in a breezy spot, say the Holy Name churchyard, for instance, literally to astonish his son's weak mind. Rahm never disparaged old Daley's name. There it will stand for years to come, above the council door, Rahm and Daley. The dynasty was well known as Rahm and Daley. Sometimes people new to city business called Rahm, and sometimes Daley, but he answered to both names. It was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Rahm. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret, self-contained, solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head and on his eyebrows and his wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his coffee in the dog days, and it didn't thaw 1 degree at Christmas. Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Rahm sat busy in his rental house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, foggy withal, and he could hear the people in the street outside go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their chests and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warm them. The city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day, and candles were flaring in the windows of the neighboring offices, like ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. The fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole.
See, I told you, that one's just weird. It's scary and dark and like Charles Dickens-ish. I don't understand.